This episode is brought to you by Amazon Prime. There's nothing sweeter than baking cookies during the holidays. With Prime, I get all my ingredients delivered right to my door, fast and free, no last-minute store trips needed. And of course, I blast my favorite holiday playlist on Amazon Music. It's the ultimate soundtrack for creating unforgettable memories. From streaming to shopping, it's on Prime. Visit Amazon.com/Prime to get more out of whatever you're into.
Hey, it's Austin James. Yes, I'm living with diabetes, but it doesn't have to define me. Thanks to the Freestyle Libre 3 Plus sensor, I get real-time glucose readings throughout the day. The Freestyle Libre 3 Plus sensor is small and easy to wear, giving me the freedom to focus on my life as a parent and a musician. Now this is progress. You can get a free sensor at freestylelibre.us.
Offer available for people who qualify. Visit myfreestyle.us to see all terms and conditions. Certain exclusions apply. Data on file. Abbott Diabetes Care. For prescription only. Safety info found at freestylelibre.us.
This episode is brought to you by AWS. Amazon Q Business is the generative AI assistant that can securely understand your business data, summarize results, and streamline tasks. Learn what Amazon Q Business can do for you at aws.com/learn more.
Thanks for choosing this free Anfield Index podcast. If you'd prefer to listen to this or any of our other shows without adverts, then now's the time to check out Anfield Index Pro. With AI Pro, you can supercharge your entire listening experience. You'll not only get all of our podcasts without the ads, but you'll have them far faster with our Quick Publish feature available exclusively for subscribers. AI Pro also puts you in the heart of our sound studio, with an option to listen to many of our shows live and interact with the podcasters in real time as the shows are recording. Upgrading couldn't be easier. AI Pro is available on all popular podcast platforms. Just head on over to AnfieldIndexPro.com and get started today.
Hello and welcome to AI Scouted on Anfield Index Pro. I'm Dave Hendrick, joined as always by Mr. Karl Matchett. How are you, sir?
I am pleased and proud to announce that I came through a good half day's worth of Christmas shopping yesterday in one of London's shopping malls, centres, things. Not a bad achievement.
I think that's quite a heroic achievement. I think the fact that you're here today podcasting after going through such a traumatic event yesterday is a testament to your character.
And fortitude and resilience and what the promise of pizza later on in the evening can do for a passy.
Right. We're here to talk about the Carabao Cup. Liverpool obviously taking on Southampton on Wednesday night, but we thought we'd take a look at before quarter-final fixtures. Unfortunately, it is 8 Premier League teams. No lower league team has survived to this stage, but there are some pretty good ties in this quarter-final round. So let's start with the first one, which is the 7:30 kickoff. Arsenal home to Crystal Palace. Arsenal got here beating Bolton 5-1 and Preston North End 3-0 away. Palace had to start around earlier because they weren't in Europe. They beat Norwich 4-0. They went to they went to Queen's Park Rangers and beat them 2-1. And then they beat Aston Villa 2-1 at Villa Park. So a tougher run for them to get here than for Arsenal, with that Villa game being by far the hardest tie either team had. But obviously, if we look at the league table, Arsenal are in considerably better form across the course of the season. But in recent weeks, Palace have started to show signs of life. They are unbeaten in their last 5 in the league. They've moved from 19th up to 15th. And they're starting to look a bit more like the Crystal Palace we expected to see this season.
Yes, getting there. I think it's taken quite a while for the attack to click this year, which is unexpected, I think, out of anything at all. If we thought that something might not be great for Palace this year, it might have been at the other end of the pitch. Obviously, in fact, the whole summer was basically uncertainty for them in defence, because there was the Jason Margay that didn't go through in the end, obviously. Joachim Andersen leaving. Obviously a change in system, which was a holdover from last season as well. So I was quite surprised at how slowly they started this year, especially the way they finished last term. But like you say, they've been much improved over the last few weeks. I wouldn't say outright good, even though I think the draw at Villa is a pretty good result in isolation. You'd still probably say the only outright victory, which is like a surprise or a really good result, is the one against Brighton, which was last time out.
Yeah.
Perhaps that shows that they are just about peaking now, or just about in the right frame of mind for what they want to do. But obviously a draw with City, we know what their form is like at the minute, but it's still a good result. A draw against Newcastle is a good result. Draw against Villa, good result. So only one outright stunning result maybe in terms of wins, but you can see that in a really hard run of fixtures, they have been consistently difficult to play against. Definitely on the upward trajectory, like I say, in the attacking half of their game, and probably you'd say they're not necessarily in better form than Arsenal, but they're in better form versus themselves than Arsenal are versus themselves, let's say.
Yeah, because Arsenal had started the season really well and then had their kind of wobble, which they're still sort of in, obviously, with a disappointing result at the weekend. I think with Palace, like you said, there was a lot of upheaval over the summer in terms of certain players left. Anderson, Olise, there was a lot of speculation around Eze and Guehi and Adam Wharton. And then obviously Wharton's also been injured for a chunk of this season. They've been trying to work Czech Doucouré back in. He's coming off a torn Achilles. That's likely their first choice midfield pairing, but they've barely played together so far. So I think Glasner's done a good job. Like, he's dealt with quite a few injuries. They didn't get a like-for-like type of replacement for Olise. Now, it's going to be very hard to replace a player of that quality anyway. But both Ismail Assar and Eddie Nketiah are totally different players, both to each other and to Michael Olise. So he is having to alter things slightly, but Sarr appears to be finding form now. He's gone back to playing Mateta as the 9, which I think has to be the move, because the form he's been in over the last 16 or 17 months has been exceptional. And I think we're starting to see those wing-backs really starting to perform as well. The defence looks more settled. I think getting Chalobah into the team has been important. I think, him and Guehi either side of Lacroix, that's a strong back three. Dean Henderson is starting to show the form that he displayed a few years ago at Sheffield United that got people quite excited about him. I think once that midfield pairing is back and in place, it will help. But credit to Will Hughes, credit to Jefferson Lerma, both of whom have also dealt with some injuries and suspensions. They've both been very good in recent weeks. And like you said, I mean, you look at the results, even going back a little bit further, they beat Spurs at home. Now, that's not really a surprise because Spurs are Spurs. They go to Wolves and get a draw. It doesn't seem like a great result, but when you're in the bottom three and they're in the bottom three, that's a good result. They lose at home to Fulham. That's fair enough. Fulham, I think were 7th at the time. And then this run that they've been on recently, like I even think going to Ipswich when you're both down there battling at the bottom of the league and getting the win, that's an important result at the time. When we look back at the end of the season and Ipswich maybe go down or maybe survive in 17th and Palace end up in 14th or whatever, it won't look like an important result at that point. But in the moment, it was definitely a big result for Palace. So, yeah, I think they can be quite confident going into this one. You'd still expect Arsenal to win this game, with the talent that they have, with the quality that they have, with the Champions League now being on hold for a month. I would expect we see a fairly strong Arsenal team because I think Arteta will want to get them back to winning ways. And of course, these teams are playing again at the weekend at Selhurst Park in the league. So for Arteta, I think he'll want to win this one as a kind of psychological step up going to Selhurst Park, which we know is a tough place to go in the Premier League.
Yeah, and I mean, look, even beyond that immediate rematch, trophies at this point have obviously got to be a thing for Arteta. We spoke about that right back at the beginning of the season. He spoke about that at the beginning of the season, and it's definitely a thing that a lot of the former Arsenal players and pundits and all the rest of it are talking about now because they're obviously quite a bit off the pace in terms of the Premier League. That's gone for them, basically. I think that the FA Cup when he started was really, really good platform for them to try and go from. And they definitely have in terms of getting better as a team and being a more competitive outfit and all the rest of it, but they haven't materially achieved anything from that. So I do think that he's not really got much room to maneuver in terms of, like, they have to not take this seriously, but given the context around of what you've just said, fewer matches and all the rest of it, they do need to just go and win this game, give themselves a chance of being in a final, having a go at a competition. Crystal Palace certainly will, because I don't think they're going to have any relegation fears from this point onwards. So they may as well go as full strength as possible, and again try and get themselves there into the semi-finals. And at that point, anything can happen in cups, and we know that. And Arsenal being at home is obviously a big advantage for them, but they really have to be on it. If Arsenal's players, whichever team he selects, if they are not quite mentally there in the game, they're not in good enough form to just play their way through against an informed Palace.
No, they're not at all. And like, I know we're focusing on the Carabao Cup here, but I've just looked at Arsenal's fixtures for January, and they're horrible. Away to Brentford, the best home team in the league. Away to Brighton, more than capable of taking points off Arsenal. Home to Spurs, who you just don't know which Spurs you get. They could turn up and be brilliant. Home to Villa, who are horrible to play against when they're on it. Away to Wolves, we don't know what they'll look like by then, but they're going to be scrapping for every point they can get, which makes that tough. And then home to City. That's a really tough run. And given Arsenal have already dropped points in 8 games, they're still in the mix. They may not be by the time we get to early February, because they have no real margin for error anymore. That's a very, very tough run. They need to start finding form, and it needs to start tomorrow night with a win over Crystal Palace. What's your prediction for that one?
I'll go with an Arsenal win, assuming they're going to put a very strong side out. I will go for 2-1.
2-1. If you offered Mikel Arteta a choice between a win in this quarterfinal or a win at the weekend, but he can't have both, which do you think he'd take? Because I agree with you. I think he has to start delivering silverware. And even though I don't think an EFL Cup justifies the near 800 million outlay that they've made under him, and he's going to go back, he's going to go back in the summer demanding more money to spend.
I'd say
they still have to have something.
Yeah, they do. And I would say that given they're away in the league as well, and Palace are in better form, I'd say he would choose the win in this game and spin a draw away from home as reasonable.
Yeah, I agree with you. Right, moving on then. Newcastle, home to Brentford. So Newcastle needed penalties to beat Nottingham Forest in the second round. Then they beat AFC Wimbledon. Then they beat Chelsea in what was a really good result for them. Brentford, on the other hand, went away to Colchester and won, beat Leyton Orient at home, 3-1, and then needed penalties to get by Sheffield Wednesday. Now, their home form is incredible. 7 wins, 1 draw in the league. Their away form is atrocious. 1 draw, 7 defeats. I don't know that I've ever seen a team quite this extreme, Carl.
Even Tottenham?
Well, if we take a quick gander at Tottenham, they've won 3 games away from home and lost 4. They've won 4 at home and lost 3. So they're schizophrenic home and away.
Yeah, true.
Brentford are brilliant at home and the worst team in the league away from home. Like, they're the best in the league at home and the worst in the league away from home.
Yeah, I mean, like, the away form is, to say it's a concern is a stupid thing to say because they haven't won a game, so obviously so. But I mean, it's excessively a problem. They were already problematic away from home. I actually had Thomas Frank as one of the ones to go early on this season because the form across the board had dropped. We spoke at length, obviously, about the lack of real turnover in the first choice team, losing Ivan Toney and so on and so forth, injury to to his replacement. I mean, they have been excellent at home, and that's fine and fair to point out, but I don't think that winning 7 out of 8 for a team of Brentford standing is sustainable. And if you therefore reduce the point intake that you're taking on home form and you haven't found a way to get anything at all, basically, away from home, what happens in the second half of the season when your home form does start to maybe not revert to the mean entirely because you've had such a good start, but at the very least you don't pick up the points as consistently as you have been doing. They do need to find some way of improving that because it's...
I don't need a VPN. I've got nothing to hide. Ha. This is what I used to tell myself before I hooked up with LibertyShield.com. Not only is my home internet now fully encrypted, but I can now access all the websites I want, whenever I want, and do so from absolutely anywhere. As a Liverpool fan, I love to know I can now watch every match, regardless of whether it's on UK TV or not. My Liberty Shield VPN makes sure nothing is blocked and guarantees me super fast streaming speed throughout that match. You can get connected right now with their software package, which includes a 48-hour no-obligation free trial and instant access to their apps for Apple, Android, Fire TV, PC, Mac and Android TV. Or go a step further like I have and get one of their pre-configured VPN routers. These small but powerful devices allow you to easily connect every device in your home to VPN, making it the perfect solution for smart TVs, Mac boxes and games consoles. Visit LibertyShield.com today and use coupon code AIVPN25 to get 25% off at checkout.
This episode is brought to you by Disney Plus. Game on, because ESPN Plus content is available on Disney Plus. You can watch your favorites from Disney Plus, Hulu, and ESPN Plus together like never before. With ESPN Plus, unwrap a full day of NBA action on Christmas Day. Tip off the festivities with the Spurs and Knicks, followed by the Mavs and Timberwolves. Then a clash between the Lakers and Warriors, followed by the 76ers and Celtics. And finally, the Nuggets face off against the Suns, all streaming December 25th. Then with Hulu, watch the terrifying sci-fi thriller Alien Romulus, where a group of young space colonizers come face to face with the ultimate horror. And on Disney Plus, follow the adventures of 4 kids across the galaxy as they meet unlikely allies and enemies in Star Wars Skeleton Crew, starring Jude Law. All of these and more now streaming and available with a bundle subscription. Visit DisneyPlus.com for details. Terms apply.
Chronic migraine is 15 or more headache days a month, each lasting 4 hours or more.
Botox, onabotulinum toxin A, prevents headaches in adults with chronic migraine. It's not for adults with migraine with 14 or fewer headache days a month. It prevents, on average, 8 to 9 headache days a month versus 6 to 7 for placebo.
Prescription Botox is injected by your doctor. Effects of Botox may spread hours to weeks after injection, causing serious symptoms. Alert your doctor right away, as difficulty swallowing, speaking, breathing, eye problems, or muscle weakness can be signs of a life-threatening condition. Patients with these conditions before injection are at highest risk. Side effects may include allergic reactions, neck and injection site pain, fatigue, and headache. Allergic reactions can include rash, welts, asthma symptoms, and dizziness. Don't receive Botox if there's a skin infection. Tell your doctor your medical history, muscle or nerve conditions, including ALS, Lou Gehrig's disease, myasthenia gravis or Lambert-Eaton syndrome, and medications, including botulinum toxins, as these may increase the risk of serious side effects.
Ask your doctor and visit BotoxChronicMigraine.com or call 1-800-44-BOTOX to learn more.
This year, Santa's bringing the power of Energizer into his workshop.
Whoa, the Energizer Bunny's got so much power.
Wait, he's powered up all the toys. I think that means we're done for the year.
I love this bunny.
He's the hardest working helper the North Pole has ever seen. And he wants all your gifts to have the power of the #1 longest lasting AA battery. So this holiday season, stock up on Santa's and the elves' favorite battery, Energizer Ultimate Lithium.
Time to move? Skip the hassles of selling during the holiday season and sell your home directly to Opendoor. Request an all-cash offer in minutes, close, and get paid in days. You can even pick your close date so you can move after New Year's. Start your move at Opendoor.com or download the Opendoor app. Opendoor is represented by Opendoor Brokerage Inc., license 02061130 in California, and Opendoor Brokerage LLC in its other markets. Terms and conditions apply.
Obviously, like I say, not really sustainable. I don't think that all of their home Premier League games have necessarily been against like tough opposition either. So the second half of the season, they'll be playing Arsenal New Year's Day, and then after that, their home games are Man City, Liverpool, Tottenham, Everton, Villa, Chelsea, Brighton, Man United. Just Fulham there, their last home game of the campaign, which is going to be a, perceived easier one, let's say. But even that, Fulham are doing very well this season. So
it's a local derby.
Yeah. So I mean, they'll have.
And the next one is Forest, who are fourth.
Yeah.
So they have a much harder home run from here on. If it could all collapse for them at home around the 17th of January, but then pick back up on say the 4th of April, so that they win on the 5th of April, that'd be wonderful. But
look, you can't sort of knock them for winning the games they must win. Therefore,
no, definitely not.
Really, really skewed in home form terms, or home fixture terms, I should say, in their favour. But then they've gone out and done it.
But I suppose their argument will also be that while they've had more difficult home fixtures, or more simple home fixtures, they've had more difficult away fixtures. They've been to Anfield, the Etihad, Tottenham, Old Trafford, Fulham, Villa Park, Goodison, and Stamford Bridge. So they'll argue that, yeah, okay, our home form will take a dip, but we expect our away form to improve because we will have easier away fixtures in the back half of the season.
But it doesn't work like that.
No, it doesn't.
It doesn't work like that. At home, you have your expectation, you have your fans, you have your comfort, your familiarity, and all the rest of it. But at none of those away games do they have that. Like they've already played Everton, who are rubbish and didn't win and had someone sent off. And Man United were terrible when they played them and they lost that game. And Spurs, we've seen them lose to terrible teams all season. Like you said, schizophrenic home and away, and they didn't win that one. So it's not just as easy as saying, okay, well, we'll give it until the start of January, and then we're away to Southampton, Palace, West Ham, and Leicester, and we just assume we'll win them. It just doesn't happen that way.
No, especially because you can't predict. Like right now, you could look at Southampton and say, "Oh well, Brentford should go and win that," but that game is weeks away. Brentford or Southampton will have a new manager, and maybe they get their new manager bounce. West Ham might have a new manager by the time you go there in February, and maybe they're a vastly different team, because we know the talent is there at West Ham to be much better than they have been so far. Van Nistelrooy seems to be getting a bit of a tune out of Leicester. I know they got walloped at the weekend, but they look more confident in themselves as well. So, and like by the time you go to Ipswich and Wolves, it might be that they need those points to stay up. Like, so you might get the very best of both of those teams in front of very partisan crowds who are, desperate for survival. So I agree, like it doesn't work in the same way as it does at home, where you can say, okay, well, you've had your easy games with everything in your favor with your home crowd and all that, but it doesn't work that way away from home. So they've got a lot of work to do to turn that around. I think that will factor in here as well. I know they've beaten Colchester away in this competition, their lone away win of the season. But St. James's Park is a much more difficult place to go. Toon, they've been a mixed bag this season. They're one of the teams that's disappointed me the most. I thought they'd be at least in the mix for a Champions League spot. Right now, they sit 12th in the league. Big win at the weekend, like over Leicester. Big win scoreline wise. Obviously, they should be beating Leicester, but they haven't been as formidable at home as I maybe thought they would be. Now, it's a draw with City, a defeat to Brighton, a draw with Liverpool, and a defeat to... Who else beat them up there? Was it Forest? No. They drew with City. They drew with us. They lost to Brighton. Someone else beat them. Oh, West Ham beat them at home. So, draws with us and City are fine, especially when that City draw took place. But, the defeat to West Ham in particular is very disappointing.
And beat Chelsea in the last round at home as well, which was big.
And beat Chelsea in the last round at home. And, They've beaten Arsenal at home this season, and they've beaten Spurs at home this season. We know St. James's is a really good home field advantage. Like, you've got a great crowd up there. It's a big stadium as well. It's loud. They play a very high-tempo brand of football. The interesting thing here is you kind of have two teams that are more comfortable counter-attacking. So one of them's going to have to seize the ball and actually set the tone of the game. It will have to be the home team, realistically. Does that play into Brentford's hands, given how good they are on the counter with Mbomo and Wissa and Shade?
Well, it should do, but obviously we've just spoken about it. It hasn't done so far in terms of away matches for them. I mean, I think looking at Newcastle's League Cup lineups, mostly stuck with a stronger team, but people like Tonali coming in to definitely start these League Cup games. He's good on the ball, but it should be fine for Newcastle. It should play to Newcastle's strengths as well as perhaps better for Brentford. So it might make for a good all-round game anyway.
Yeah, I think this will be a good all-round game. Let's get a prediction then.
I don't think we can really go for Brentford to suddenly pick it out the bag for this match, given Newcastle are pretty decent. And obviously the fans, we spoke about Arsenal wanting trophy. We know what Newcastle want. It's been years since they were anything. I will go for 17-0 to Newcastle.
I'll go 2-1 to the Toon. I agree with your Arsenal prediction. I think, if we were to do a poll on which manager needs a trophy the most, I think Eddie Howe would be very close to the top of that, because he's done a decent job. There's nobody that would question it. Like, he had a great first 18 months, took them from the foot of the table to the Champions League.
This episode is brought to you by LifeLock. The holidays mean more travel, more shopping, more time online, and more personal info in places that could expose you to identity theft. That's why LifeLock monitors millions of data points every second. If your identity is stolen, their US-based restoration specialist will fix it, guaranteed or your money back. Get more holiday fun and less holiday worry with LifeLock. Save up to 40% your first year. Visit LifeLock.com/podcast. Terms apply.
At Sierra, discover top workout gear at incredible prices, which might lead to another discovery. Your headphones haven't been connected this whole time. Awkward. Discover top brands at unexpectedly low prices. Sierra, let's get moving.
With Uber Reserve, good things come to those who plan ahead. Family vacay? Reserve your ride as soon as you book your flights. To all the planners, now you can reserve your Uber ride up to 90 days in advance. See Uber app for details.
Add excitement to your holidays with Ohio Lottery Holiday Scratch-Offs, including $1 holiday cash and $5 holiday lucky times 10, or holiday bonus millions with a 200 times multiplier and a $2 million top prize. Plus, enjoy second chance drawings where you can win 10 times, 100 times, or 1,000 times the price of your ticket. Scratch-Offs make the perfect gift, and best of all, there's no wrapping required. Lottery players are subject to Ohio laws and commission regulations. Play responsibly.
Bit of a step back last season, but still would have had them in Europe if it wasn't for United winning the FA Cup. But this season it has been a step back, sitting in the bottom half of the table. It is all very congested, and they obviously could very easily put together a run of games where they pick up, say, 15 points from 7 games, something like that. And vault themselves up the table. At the moment, they are currently only 5 points outside the top 4, which, is a smaller gap than Arsenal in third to Liverpool in first. So all of those teams in there are inconsistent. Forest, they've dropped points in 8 games. City, 8 games. Bournemouth, 9. Villa, 9. Fulham, 10. Brighton, 10. Spurs 9, Brentford 9, and Newcastle 10. All of these teams are dropping a lot of points. So there is a world in which they put together a string of results, and all of a sudden they find themselves 2 points outside top 4 with, everything to play for the back end of the season. But I think if Eddie Howe can deliver silverware up there, even if they have a disappointing league campaign, I think that will mean so much to that fan base that the owners, I don't think they'd be brave enough to fire him if he's delivered the first trophy since, the 1950s?
Yeah. And not only that, but it gets them back into Europe as well.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, but we'll see. I agree. I think they go through this round. Right. We'll jump over the late kickoff on Wednesday, which is the 8 p.m. The Arsenal game is 7:30. The Newcastle game is 7:45. We're on at 8. We'll come back to that. We'll move to the Thursday night game.
Really, an explanation of that, though, first? Why are games at staggered 15-minute intervals? What is the point of this? How does that...
Makes no sense. Makes no sense. It's so you can watch 15 minutes of Arsenal when they're boring you to tears. You can flick over to Newcastle against Brentford. And if you don't enjoy that one, you can flick over to see Southampton against Liverpool. It's all I can think of. It's an absolute farce. Just put them all on at the same time. And why is there 3 games on one night and only 1 on the other night?
And why is the game with what I assume... No, yeah, both of the later kickoffs on the Wednesday are the ones where the away fans have furthest to travel. The earliest kickoff, which finishes soonest, is the 2 London teams against each other.
Exactly.
Making no sense.
Exactly. Best of luck to the Brentford fans and the Liverpool fans trying to get their way home from those games. And it's the same on the Thursday night with Tottenham against Manchester United. Manchester to London is a long old journey. Tottenham, like we said, I mean, the most schizophrenic team in the league, just mental. You don't know what you're going to get with them. They go and they beat City 4-0 at the Etihad. The week before that, they're losing at home to Ipswich. They go 2-0 up against Chelsea and look like they're going to tear them apart. They lose 4-3 at home. They're just such a bizarre team. Ange is definitely high on that list of managers that need some silverware this year. Obviously, to get to this point, Tottenham went away to Coventry and beat them. They beat City at home. So, they'll be confident going into this one. United hammered Barnsley by 7-0, then hammered Leicester by 5-2. This is their first adventure away in this competition. They're also incredibly hard to predict. They're a team that doesn't really make any sense. They have changed manager. Obviously, they've gotten Ruben Amorim in. It started positively with, a draw away to Ipswich isn't great, but still. But then they hammered Everton. Then they lose away to Arsenal, but that's okay. Arsenal are going for the title. Then they lose at home to Forest and look dreadful. And then they go to the Etihad at the weekend. They don't play particularly well. They're losing in the 88th minute, and somehow they come away with a 2-1 win, which I think had more to do with City than it did with United. But United sit 13th in the league, only a couple of spots behind Spurs, who also very disappointing, sitting in 10th at the moment. I don't know what I expected from these teams this year. I didn't expect either of them to be like this, though.
Yeah, it's what can we say? 2 teams who should be capable of more. An absolute mess at one club, obviously, in terms of off-pitch stuff, and one who I think Spurs' side, team, squad, whatever way you want to look at it, is better than they are doing at the minute. I don't think necessarily United's is as good as they want it to be, but I think Spurs should be. I think Ange has underperformed this year.
Yeah,
in terms of not play, but organisation and consistency. That has to fall on him at this stage. I know it's like the players and it's inbuilt at the club and all the rest of it, but he's in control of this group. He's in control of these players, and he's got to find the ways to make them be as consistent as he needs them to be. And we know that tactically that's on him at times, and he prefers that, and that's fine. He takes responsibility for that side. But so is the other side. When you're just tactically fine and 3-0 up at half time or 2-0 up at half time and don't win the game, that's also on you. So Amorim doesn't need to win this. He doesn't need to win a cup. He's going to get more time. He's going to get more opportunities anyway. So he's kind of got a gimme at pretty much every game, every new opponent at the moment. And results like the one at the weekend where they did nothing and then still won against Man City, that's going to buy him like months at a time when you pick up that, because you're right at the beginning. And because
it kept Ollie in a job for a long time, didn't it? That kind of thing where they get a fluke result against City or whoever.
Yeah. I mean, it can only last so long when there's no body of work behind that manager, which is why he had to go eventually. But Amorim, if he does this for, let's say, 14 months, you'd still be tempted to say, yes, he can produce something at the end of it because he has previously, whereas other ones that they have hired, let's say, haven't necessarily done that. I think this should be a really, really good game. I'm not 100% sure if I'll be watching this one or not yet, to be honest, given it's Thursday night. But if I do think it'll be a really enjoyable match, especially considering some of the people who are out, which might make the Spurs lineup even less cohesive than normal.
Yeah, I mean, at the weekend they played Dragusin and Archie Gray at centre-back, and I thought Archie Gray was outstanding in the win over Southampton. I love this Spurs squad. I genuinely do. I think you can look at this Spurs squad and see a really bright future. Like when you look at Vicario's 28, Dragusin, Edoji, they're both 22. Romero's only 26, Poro's 25, Jed Spence is 24, Mickey van de Ven's 23, Bissouma and Maddison are 28, Gray and Bergvall are 18, Matar Sarr is 22, Bentancur is 27, Richarlison's 27, Solanke's 27, Kulusevski's only 24, but seems to have been around forever. Brennan Johnson's 23, and Odebert is 20, plus a couple out on loan. Ashley Phillips is 19. Velez is 21. They've also got young Mikey Moore, who they're very, very high on. I think like they're a bit of depth at centre-back, a backup keeper, a backup left-back, and away from having a really, really good squad for the next kind of 3 to 5 years. It's just with Ange, like, he's being incredibly naive with some of the lineups. Like, you cannot go into a Premier League game, I don't care who it's against, with a midfield three of Kulusevski, Bentancur and Maddison. You just can't. Two of them don't have a defensive bone in their body, and the third one, who is clever, isn't mobile. Like, Bentancur came back off the ACL and he had clearly lost a yard. And you don't need to ever play that midfield when you've got the options they do of Bissouma, Matar Sarr, Gray and Bergvall. You don't need to be playing that type of midfield. They've got really good options out wide. The one player I didn't mention, who I think will still be a big part of the next 3 to 4 years there, is Heung-min Son, who's still outstanding at 32. And like, this is a really good, well-balanced squad. It just needs a little bit of depth in certain places. Left side centre-back, goalkeeper, left-back, and you might want another one in attack, like another ready-made player in attack. But there's a very bright future there for Spurs, as long as they're not stupid about it.
Hey guys, it's Eddie Gibbs from Anfield Index here. I hope you're enjoying this podcast, and I'm sorry to call time on the show before it ends. In the current climate, it's tougher than ever before to offer podcasts for free. At Anfield Index, we produce over 75 free shows every month, which I'm confident is unparalleled in the LFC sphere. Whilst we'd love to offer everything for free, the production costs now make this impossible. That said, we don't want to follow the model of other channels and lock all of our content behind a paywall. So what we've decided to do is to continue offering every show for free, but cut that offering to 30 minutes on our longer shows. So to get all of our shows in full and enjoy the best of everything we have to offer, we really hope you'll consider supporting the channel and signing up at AnfieldIndexPro.com. For about the price of 1 cup of coffee, you'll get every podcast in full with 0 ads. You'll also get access to our LFC VIP community, where you can enjoy live podcasts, engage with our podcasters, and chat with other Reds in real time. So that website again, AnfieldIndexPro.com. Join today.
This podcast is part of the Sports Social Podcast Network.
It is Ryan here, and I have a question for you. What do you do when you win?
Like, are you a fist pumper, a woohooer, a hand clapper, a high fiver? If you want to hone in on those winning moves, check out Chumba Casino. Choose from hundreds of social casino style games for your chance to redeem serious cash prizes. There are new game releases weekly, plus free daily bonuses. So don't wait. Start having the most fun ever at ChumbaCasino.com.
Sponsored by Chumba Casino. No purchase necessary. VGW Group. Void where prohibited by law. 18 plus. Terms and conditions apply.